Welcome back to the Asia Pacific Grandmasters. We've got match number 5 coming right up, and it's going to be SamuelTsao versus Pathra, and it is going to be a Hunter mirror. And I feel like this is where everything comes sort of put to the test in the mirror matches. A lot of people don't really enjoy mirror matches overall, but the second you don't know how to play them, you lose, I feel, because the decks are more or less even.
Yeah, and definitely we've seen quite a few mirrors throughout the weekend, and Tyler has been dominating with them. And I think Patra's in a pretty good spot with her play so far. It was just unfortunate with the rope and the ping, I think, from her location. But now that she knows that she has to play a little bit quicker, I think that it's going to be pretty interesting to see how that pans out, especially since SamuelTsao has already had practice in the mirror this weekend.
Right. Let's take a look at the list and let's see how it's going to shake out in terms of exactly who is bringing what. So SamuelTsao looks like he's actually just bringing the ultimate, almost subtle pleasing list of two-offs of almost everything. Obviously, the second you play an odd number of legendaries, that's not going to work out so well, but I'm pretty sure somewhere Sottle is smiling and nodding his head at least slightly.
Is that somewhere England?
I believe so at this second in time, yes. Though I'm not always aware of Sol's whereabouts, however many people think I may be.
Yeah, I mean, I thought you guys were the best of friends.
We just have trackers on and we could just check where each other are at all times. Kind of scary. But yeah, this list, at least for me, seems just well-rounded and consistent is what I see here.
Yeah, I mean, just this looks like what you would normally see on ladder. The lack of the hatchets is what stands out to me, because I feel like some people have been including either one or two of those throughout the Hunter list this weekend. And I think while it's not insane in the mirror, it can be pretty useful when your opponent is trying to go for the curve out with Hyena on curve against you. So it's nice to have that insurance. For SamuelTsao, though, this is just, as you mentioned, the solid list.
Yeah, it is. And now we can take a look at Patra's list as well and see what the comparisons are. I do agree with you overall that the hatchets, for me, in the mirror are good because they just put your opponent off, right? The second you equip it, it's not going to be removed because there's no weapon removal in Hunters right now. And it means that at any point you want, you can either make up the +2 damage somewhere, you can trade off stuff like Timberwolves that are also, potentially a lot of damage as well as easy to kill with this hatchet. So Pathra does have two offs, but there are sacrifices because of that in the list.
Yeah, namely cutting the scale hide and a deadly shot. So I think of these two, the more relevant one is the scale hide, because there are many instances in the mirror where one player just tries to go aggressive because they don't have the long drawn out Zul'jin in hand. And in that case, the other player needs to have exactly the scale hide and frenzy to be able to stabilize because they don't have enough taunts in the list. I mean, 0 outside of rolling Misha. And so maybe the one of Scale Hide hurts Pathra, but she does have a very good secondary list for the mirror, I think. So she could be switching into that.
Yeah, and we'll see what the mirrors happen later. Again, as you mentioned, as Tyler also mentioned, switching to high mains just seems correct. They're so good in the matchup, especially when there's no base freezing traps or anything that really deals with them, or silences as well. Hunter doesn't play silence at the moment, so nothing that can really easily deal with those high mains. But to get to that, we have to get in through to game number 1. See the players just getting ready there. And I don't know, I think it's a tough one. We've seen a lot of Hunter mirrors just be either very swingy or very one-sided, just in terms of Master's Call, to be completely honest.
Shout out to Tyler, too, just in terms of curving out with the Timberwolves. But both players have Unleash, so that's not going to be a possibility. Quickly, before we go into the game, I do want to apologize for a caster vision thing we did. I did get a chance to read a tweet from Pathra, which I remember the other day we called out her trading a Misha and essentially playing into Consecration, but overall the play may have been better to play around other possibilities from Paladin like True Silver and Hammer of Wrath. So
yeah, who would have thought it? Sometimes casters cannot account for every single thing in the world at all times across multiple hours a day. We are terrible people, but we'll continue and cast as best we can. So SamuelTsao, both players now currently 0 and 5, which means this is just a fight at the bottom of the division to just get something on the board. And it does mean one of these players is going to go 1 and 5 and get that victory, which is at least a step away from that just low part in the division you never want to sit at. But talk to me about the opening hands, Gia.
Looking good for both players, I must say. Like Pathra on the play with the 1-2-3 is always something you want to see. SamuelTsao, he has the Vicious Scale Hide to answer this, although I'm not necessarily sure you do, because I think it's fine to just wait it out and then potentially coin into one of the 3-cost spells. He could just track this turn, try to get his own Spring Paw, because the nightmare scenario, I guess, is if Pathra has exactly the Scavenging Hyena to follow up and you don't have an answer, and then suddenly your master is calling and you're falling way too far behind. But he is just going to go for the Scale Hide onto this.
It's a really tough call to make, isn't it? Because there are definitely benefits and negatives to both, but sometimes messing it up loses you the game even this early. As you mentioned, if a hyena gets steamrolling and then you just lose because you can't answer it, well, that was just down to a choice that was made super early on.
Yeah.
There is the Headhunter's Hatchet, and because there's two of them, I wouldn't mind just equipping one now. It's a little bit more annoying because you lose one charge and having to use the mana a little bit sooner, but you have two, like, just get swinging.
Yeah, it's a tough turn for Pathra too. And the last one was tough for SamuelTsao. You saw him rope it, and I think he knows that this play he made gets punished by the 2 of Hatchet. And Pathra, conversely, knows that there's no Hatchet from SamuelTsao. So
But there is that.
Yeah, but I feel like SamuelTsao, if he had Spring Paw, would have played Spring Paw last turn instead of coining a Scale Hide, which is a pretty valuable resource in the matchup. So maybe Pathra made the read that there was no Spring Paw, and it's a bit unfortunate for her that it's top deck, but I actually like the Hyena on too. Because there is no Scale Hide from SamuelTsao, and there's no ability to like coin Companion into Leok or something.
Yeah, the one-off makes a big deal. For me, I was just thinking more along the lines of Hatchet this turn, and then you get either Hyena links the turn after, along with the Hatchet, to pretty much just shut down whatever SamuelTsao can do. But this definitely had the greater payoff overall.
Yeah. Okay, so now Pathra can get the full 3 charges on her Headhunter's Hatchet if she so chooses, but just having a companion seems pretty decent too, because SamuelTsao has no ability to go for Dire Frenzy on 3 mana, so leaving the Scale Hide doesn't seem too threatening this turn. Even if she gets Huffer, she can take the value trade and then not be too worried about Spring Paw because she saw one already.
Right.
It's tough though. Because no matter which of the plays she makes this turn, the next turn seems a bit awkward, mana-wise.
Just gonna go with the Hatchet. Just get the 3 charges, of course, because the Lynx is down on the board. But now Pathra has a little bit of an awkward follow-up turn because I can't imagine a world where Hatchet and Hero Power get equipped next turn, along with Animal Companion and Deadly Shot being slightly off curve.
For SamuelTsao, the decision is between Companion and Master's Call. I'm leaning towards the Master's Call because Pathra has had a reactive turn, and you know she has a weapon. So if you get Huffer, that's pretty sad. And if you get one of the 4 health Animal Companions, it's pretty likely that Pathra can answer and maybe even leave her Lynx on board.
I think for me as well is if your opponent didn't Master's Call on 3 and you can, you should. Because look at the hand size difference right now, and then Master's Call is going to pay off way, way more, I think, if SamuelTsao just jams it this turn. Because you've just seen, like, Pathra would have Master's Called last turn, I am fairly sure, if she had it. And then SamuelTsao can just cash in on this and say, actually, now I'm so much further ahead. Who cares if you have a 1-1 on the board and plus 1 additional minion this turn? Pathra did draw a 1-drop, though, so...
Yeah. I think with her hand, this is a signal to just push all in.
I think you just play it, yeah.
I mean, take some notes from Tyler, perhaps.
Yeah, you play it because also you want to start... You just swing the Hatchet as well, right? Just go.
With the second one in hand and no Master's Call to follow up, I think Patra's on the aggro game plan. She also saw SamuelTsao already use a Scale Hide, so there's only the second one that can help him stabilize in terms of health total. And another reason is she saw a Spring Paw already, so this board kind of requires the second Spring Paw or Unleash the Hounds to deal with cleanly.
Yeah, and even though we can see that this Hyena after this clear, or semi-clear I'll say, this Hyena will just be dealt with Deadly Shot, SamuelTsao, I won't say doesn't care, you obviously don't like your minions being killed, but won't care that much because, okay, one of your cards was Deadly Shot, sick, because it means that it's gone and SamuelTsao still has so much gas in the tank, and every turn that Pathra doesn't call the wild, not call the wild, Master's Call, I always do that, every turn that Pathra doesn't Master's Call, SamuelTsao just has to be extremely happy because at this point it's the only real way that Pathra comes back into the game.
It's true. wouldn't it be sick if Call of the Wild were still in the meta and then you
Oh
could get
my
it off
God.
Zul'jin?
And they buffed it to 8 mana again.
Ooh. The secret mech, Rise of the Mechs buff
Yeah.
is a card from Wild.
The beasts and mech, dual tribe
Yeah.
coming in.
So the Deadly Shot was a pretty obvious part of the turn for Pathra. I was just curious if she was going to Hero Power or play the Shimmerfly. So the Shimmerfly, I think, is pretty good just because she needs something to do next turn. At worst, it dies and then you get a card. At best, it's going to push 2 damage of its own, so it is like a Hero Power.
It's a win-win card, right,
Yeah.
at the moment.
What I am curious of is why she didn't swing with the Hatchet, having the second one in hand.
Especially if this... Secret plan, not so shabby. Hunting Party could be used with this hand, but I feel like it's just...
So slow.
You can do funky things with it, but it's 5 mana do nothing a lot of the time,
Yeah.
right? Which is just... You just can't do it in almost every circumstance.
Ooh, Dire Frenzy. Again, ideally, not the ideal minion to put it on a Shimmerfly, but it is just pushing damage at this point, and that's exactly what Pathra's game plan is. This is just one of those Hunter hands that doesn't allow you too many options.
Right.
I mean, Hunter draws, obviously the hand allows you exactly one option, play the Hatchet, or not.
I think Pathra Hero Power's here, right? On average, it's better.
I think so.
Because if she's playing aggressive, you generally want Hatchet to go face.
Yeah.
Even if Hatchet doesn't go face, so it's -1 charge if you wait, you push the same amount of total damage, and it's extremely likely you draw a minion next turn, I feel. So you can end up doing this turn anyway, and maybe you squeeze out 1 extra hero power for 2 extra damage.
I'm inclined to agree with weaving it in. Feel like this play of equipping it now is rewarded if you draw exactly Unleash the Beast.
Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe Master's
And then
Call into things.
that's what
Yeah.
I mean. I feel like for that kind of, there's just a couple of cards you draw that would even like punish, because at worst you get just one less choice of where to put the 2 damage, right? Because you've put one automatically to face instead of aimed,
Yeah.
which still isn't the worst case with you being the aggressor.
So SamuelTsao starts with the Animal Companion there, knowing that no matter what result, he still has the Deadly Shot for the Shimmerfly. But now that he's gotten Huffer, he's instead choosing to go proactive while he knows that Pathra has no more cards in hand, and he can use this window to try and push the initiative. So Revenge of the Wild off the Shimmerfly has the synergy with the Hounds, but doesn't seem great here. This is looking like a fat hero power and swing face pass to me.
It could be a clear though, right?
But how worried are you about just a 4-3 and a 1-1? I feel like it might get better later on because Pathra is the aggressor here, and then maybe holding on to the Unleash gives you more damage later on. But on the flip side, she's so far from being able to lethal that maybe she's just trying to get the board
I think
initiative
just does
now.
something. Yeah,
Yeah,
it just does
okay.
something. Because if you just get smacked again and then one more minion comes down, well, unless the minion's exactly a 1-1, you're further behind, right? Because Unleash gains you 1 extra dog,
Right.
but it probably doesn't kill the minion that SamuelTsao actually played.
Yeah. So now Samuel has this option of playing an explosive trap to deal with both the dogs. He could start the turn with tracking, although playing explosive denies him. Playing tracking denies him the opportunity to add the Rhino onto the explosive trap turn. He could go for a clear with like Rhino trade and Bestial. No, never mind.
No,
That's
no,
not
you
Unleash.
couldn't.
I keep
Plus 2 attack and
confusing the-
immunity is Bestial
Sorry.
Wrath.
Yeah, it's not the Beast Within. These are not great for his situation. I feel like you take the second tracking. I think SamuelTsao wants his second Scale Hide and or Zul'jin.
Or maybe you play a slightly longer game. You have you take Dire Frenzy, and then next turn you either do the opposite of multi-shot or explosive trap, whatever you don't do this turn, and then you end up Dire Frenzy in the Rhino on into turn 9. Maybe that was okay. It was definitely a bit of a longer term plan, but SamuelTsao did go for the tracking, but didn't replay it first.
Is there time to
Ooh,
make a real choice? Well, the
what's this
middle
called?
one is a
Was
real
that snap
choice.
pick?
Probably,
Oh, right.
yes.
Okay.
So the turn from SamuelTsao there, I have to say, was very interesting because he has this weird situation of the hand very clearly stating play control, survive until Zul'jin, because he doesn't have things to push face. But he also knows Pathra has been on the top deck for several turns now, and maybe he was supposed to use that window to try and push more damage. But ultimately, I think the second tracking probably draws him better options from the remaining cards.
And like I said, my Dire Frenzy plan that I outlined was a lot slower with some good payoff. But the problem is slower can sometimes equal death when your opponent, because you never know what Patra's going to just, like you said, draw off the top. It could be literally any card left in the deck. There's no reads to a top deck fight. Pathra is going to respect the Thunder Rhino though, clear it off and use, frankly, quite a lot of damage considering SamuelTsao at 12 now. It could be a lot lower.
Yeah, she used 4, but then the Rhino also represents a clock of its own, because if SamuelTsao has Unleash the Beast or anything like that, it's suddenly charging face. Maybe she had a read there was no Unleash the Beast, because I feel like it would have been a better play last turn than the trackings and the Rhino.
Tracking.
Yeah. But it's a really tough position. Like, she's just not gotten any card draw, not even a tracking.
The more I watch this mirror match, the more I just want to hard mulligan for Master's Call in every single game, regardless of what my opening hand is. Because no matter what the early fights happen, whoever has more minions normally gets the win overall. So I've one turn off.
Yeah, but that's...
Is there even that much stuff?
There's a Frenzy, there's...
An Unleash. Oh, 2 Unleash.
And Companion, I think?
Yeah, This is suddenly close, but the problem is SamuelTsao can do his on the backswing, and he also gets Explosive Trap, which helps a little bit. And also, doesn't have to play a minion this turn, which means that the Unleashes don't do anything.
I think you can put Pathra on having exactly Zul'jin. What other card? Maybe you wouldn't rip a kill command there, but there's not much else that you wouldn't just play and hope it gets there.
I guess Deadly Shot, because there's nothing... Deadly Shot,
She
Mark
used
Shot.
one, right?
Oh, does she?
With
Oh, sorry, she's on 1. Apologies. I thought
Yeah.
it's me too much looking at SamuelTsao's list. So yeah, there really isn't a lot. Dire Frenzy number 2.
So
it's either Zul'jin or situational cards, right?
Yeah, so if he puts her on having Zul'jin, then playing minions is just straight up a risk for him, because he could die to the Unleashes that it summons. And
also, you've got to wonder, without any minions for Pathra, does playing minions even worth it anyway? Like, does that always just give Pathra something to do, even if a card's not Zul'jin?
The thing is, if he doesn't get the Scale Hide on board, then it's not going to guaranteed heal next turn. It's really close. But he is just going to decide to play around the Zul'jin into Unleashes.
But he gains armor next turn, so maybe that's the turn that bides him the time to then do the Scale Hide.
Yeah, I think I like it from SamuelTsao.
Nice heads-up play from SamuelTsao here, actually.
Yeah. And now Patra's like, how long can I hold on to this Zul'jin?
She wins the hero power war right now. 10 health versus 15.
I think the only outcome for her that does something positive is to go exactly Animal Companion and then Dire Frenzy. Because there's a lot of outcomes where your companion dies to your own Mark Shot or Kill Command if she's used one.
Yeah, or Dire Frenzy just happens first as well. And like, there's so many things that can go wrong.
And the Unleash the Hounds is not summoning anything, so I quite like holding on and just pushing the hero power button.
It's definitely requires some discipline to not just press Zul'jin right now.
Yeah.
Because what you got to think as well is, if Zul'jin gives anything on the board, it's worth it because you've created a larger health gap and you can start going with the hero powers the turn after anyway. Patra's held off and dropped the Scale Hide, so I am quite excited to see how this turns out.
Yeah. Scale Hide play, I think, makes sense because if you're needing to Zul'jin on the next turn, that's something that the Dire Frenzy can land on, that if it sticks, can immediately attack. It's almost never sticking, but I don't know.
Wonder... Oh. So there's a play SamuelTsao can make. He can go Scale Hide into Bestial Wrath, which kills Patra's Scale Hide, heals him for more than 1, because he gets the plus attack, and doesn't heal Pathra. Could even use the Timberwolf there, and even a Kill Command at face if he really wants. So he could use a lot of stuff this turn that makes his Zul'jin better, and also makes him not play Zul'jin potentially into Patra's.
I think he just needs to account for what the max damage from Zul'jin is. If he leaves 2 minions on the board, I think Patra's best outcome is the double Unleash, so that's 4 and then a Dire Frenzy. So 4 plus 3, 7, weapon swing 9, but he will heal out of range of that with the scale.
With the weapon as well. There's a weapon swing for Pathra too.
It's 9, right? With 2 Unleash and 1 Frenzy. I might be missing some spells.
So
Maybe there's.
I guess the Animal Companion is a question
Oh
mark,
yeah,
right?
yeah, that too.
Because the Animal Companion, 2 out of 3 killing.
Yeah. There's too much to account for, but playing 3 minions over 2 gives Pathra, I think, a much higher chance to get a lethal Zul'jin. I don't know if that chance was the difference between like 10 and 11%, but it does look like she has to go for it now. At least we know the end turn is yellow, so something can attack. Oh, Leok Unleash! Could this just be lethal? Ooh, not that one. If the other Unleash lands and they can all attack, that is just lethal. Even if one of them dies because she has a weapon. Oh, there's only 1 Unleash? Oh my god, I could have sworn there were 2, but man. Now
Okay, well, that is close to worst case scenario.
I think
Out of the spells that were played, buffing the Scale Hide was horrendous because this damage pretty much just gets healed all the way back up again. And then SamuelTsao can play his Zul'jin.
it is incredibly unlucky. There were like 7 targets on the Frenzy there. Any one of them but the Scale Hide, I think, would have been a decent outcome for Pathra. And some of them had the potential for just close to lethal.
Could be a nutso outcome. At least set up lethal next turn without Zul'jin.
Like, if it landed on one of her hounds, not only could she have pushed at least 3 more damage this turn, could have even put SamuelTsao to 1 if the weapon went face, then she'd have hounds in her deck which she could track into to finish him off next turn. But now, I don't think Pathra can beat the counter Zul'jin. As long as SamuelTsao like heals this 4, I think you're meant to take the guaranteed 4 heal in case your Zul'jin kills your own Scale Hide first, on the very off chance.
Yeah, I mean, you always just want the 4, right? Ooh. Wait. Okay. So he can multi-shot, deadly shot, and guarantee a clear if he trades first?
Yeah. Is this too passive from SamuelTsao? Okay, maybe he's playing around the possibility of Dire Frenzying one of Patra's
Right,
hounds,
right. And to be
which is-
fair,
yeah.
with Pathra 1 card a turn, she's used Zul'jin.
Yes.
How does SamuelTsao actually die? It's almost impossible, right?
You're right. It could have been possible if he didn't roll Misha, I think, if she got Master's Call into stuff, but...
Oh, he went for Hero Power instead of Deadly Shot. Interesting. I think if you were doing that
Close.
play, you'd probably just Deadly Shot. I don't know. There's Master's Call finally.
Yeah.
Which means Pathra can draw some stuff, but is she just dead?
The problem is, maybe you Mark Shot just to deal with the Scale Hide. It's probably too slow, but... It's so confusing for Pathra now because I feel like if I were in her spot, and I see that SamuelTsao did not counter Zul'jin on 10, I might think that he just didn't have Zul'jin. And in that case, I would want to get as much burn as possible and also remove the Scale Hide without it healing anything, and then just go for a couple hero powers to the face and try and get there. But we know SamuelTsao is sitting on the Zul'jin.
Yeah, it's also a weird spot as well because is Masters calling into stuff, does that remove the Scale Hide more often? Especially when, even though she casts a Scale Hide on SamuelTsao's, it still shuffles into her deck.
Yes.
So now she has a Scale Hide that can heal her and maybe get a bit cozier than we were going to be. I was on the edge of my seat for that game, ready to end it, but it's going to continue for a little bit now.
I think this counter Zul'jin will just, if not immediately end the game, end it over 2 turns. But yeah, this Master's Call from Pathra, I think, works out if there were no Zul'jin, and I think I would have made the read. There wasn't, but unfortunately for her, pretty sure SamuelTsao's just probably...
Before SamuelTsao just doesn't play Zul'jin and just trades into the dog double Deadly Shot next.
Granted, has he used Deadly Shot at all?
I think those 2 are his natural deadlies.
So it's
That's
not,
what I mean. It's
yeah.
not a
not-
truly absurd suggestion.
Yeah. So maybe the Zul'jin doesn't actually clear that much. And then in that case, he should just go for Deadly and Unleash the Beast and just clear her board. You go up to 11, relatively safe.
Yeah, from hand, definitely, yeah. Yeah, I like this. This isn't quite the double Deadly Shot joke. I was you know, half joking, of course, but I do like the not playing Zul'jin the more I think about it because you're safe enough with the Scale Hide.
think it would depend on what's loaded up in there. But yeah, now knowing that there were no deadly shots, this is probably the safest thing you could have done.
And also, I think the point as well is that if SamuelTsao goes Zul'jin, he could lose his own Scale Hide, and his Scale Hide is solo in this game right now.
Oh yeah.
Because every single turn it hits is another turn away from lethal, more or less, for Pathra. So this Scale Hide is getting the job done. SamuelTsao's going to see Unleash the Beast now with the trade, but most importantly now there's an Unleash the Beast, there's a deadly shot. So 100% of the time, SamuelTsao can clear this board.
Well, there's a world where he clears his own Unleash the Beast before it can attack.
Sure.
But it's very unlikely, I would say.
With Unleash as well, and there only being 3 health on board.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an explosive trap.
Oh, is he going to unleash the hounds and unleash?
I mean, again, he's not taking 15 from hand, right?
I mean, just knowing that Pathra expended so much burst and her Zul'jin already, I think SamuelTsao wins in nearly every situation. He just has to not die to fatigue. He's got 2 cards left in deck, but
Right.
there's no way the game goes that long, right? Wait, there is, because Pathra has Scale Heights. Raven, this is getting weird. But surely...
I actually do like this play, though.
With a fully loaded Zul'jin,
You should just kill them, right?
yeah, I think next turn, surely Zul'jin closes the game. Like,
Well,
not on the spot, but it will present this
secures
board.
the game.
Yeah.
It secures the game,
Yeah.
yeah.
It would present a board that is nigh
Yeah.
on impossible for Pathra to deal with.
Pathra can do the fun thing with the 9 lives with the Shimmerfly,
Yeah.
which is kind of sick.
Do the thing.
It's a really funny interaction, actually.
I think she needs something crazy to deal with the board that will be generated by SamuelTsao next turn. I don't know if there's a single Hunter spell that gets there.
Or does she want to even trade the Unleash the Beasts, get the Scale Hide on the 1/1, and then just Hero Power face, maybe?
Why would you even trade when you can Scale Hide into it?
Because do you want your Scale Hide on 1 health or 5?
I feel like a 1 health Scale Hide plus a 5/5 on board is probably
Okay.
more relevant. I'm not sure though.
Okay.
Right now she's just hoping Zul'jin is the bottom card, but
Alright.
it's been sitting there for a while. Why is SamuelTsao so stressed out?
Yeah, well, he has to consider a couple of things as well, because he's played tracking, right? So he
Sure.
never draws this last card,
Yeah.
unless it's exactly a beast and he masters calls before he trackings.
But this will generate, more often than not, a board that Pathra cannot deal with. He's got the...
Oh, I think he does it. Yeah, I
wyverns?
think he does it
Yeah,
now. Because his other options aren't consistent enough, right? If he just mark shot,
Yeah.
deadly shot, well, Pathra just did something again.
I'm just, like, SamuelTsao has not been the most expressive player I've ever seen, but he looks to me in an unlosable position unless this Zul'jin is super unlucky, and then that's when we saw him make this grimace.
I mean, what am I talking about as well? The tracking actually pulls the card first, right? So,
Yeah.
he always gets that card. Tracking. Sick.
I
mean, there
mean-
might be a Die Frenzy, right?
Yeah,
He's not with the Die Frenzy yet, right?
Yeah, and he's also got another one in hand, so as long as one minion sticks, he won't even have to worry about fatigue. Not that that is ever a concern.
Make some trades, Mr. SamuelTsao. Ooh, Huff.
I just wonder if you
I
could have done
can't
this
hold all these
ages,
spells.
ages ago, but I guess he
I mean,
just
he
wanted
would-
to make sure that the 2 wyverns were there.
Yeah, exactly. This
because
board would have looked very different and much less threatening.
without them, he maybe could have cleared his own stuff, so maybe he was just going for the 100%, even though it did seem
Oh,
drawn out. The infinite value
the
in
combo.
fatigue. That would have been great if SamuelTsao did not have any board, but
It would have been great if SamuelTsao had nothing and just lost the game.
I agree, Raven. You've never said truer words.
I mean, I just simplified what you said, that's all. But these Shimmerflies aren't going to do enough. One, even Huffer's not going to do enough. I think that spells the end for Pathra in game number 1. I don't see the line. Because even if she 9 lives and gets the best spell in the world that she can possibly get, I don't think it's good enough.
Yeah.
Or even cheap enough, depending on what you think the best spell is. With Kill Command, Dire Frenzy, Unleash the Beast, Deadly Shot, the list goes on. to what SamuelTsao can do to get rid of this board. And now the more minions are played, the more likely it is to see just a mark shot go through. But in a roundabout way, it doesn't really matter, as SamuelTsao is going to take game number 1 in this Hunter Mirror. And that was a little bit nutty for a second there. Pathra, even without the Master's Call, looked like she may have just about got there, but it wasn't meant to be. And SamuelTsao, very strict and very controlled play of that Zul'jin was... we'll have to go back and watch it, of course, but for me, I think I agree with pretty much every single turn he held back, because he could have always done something a little bit better.
He probably, by holding back, just changed his win percent from that spot from like 99 to 100. But honestly, like, that is what separates great players from bad players. I mean, I just really felt for Pathra there, because she was just playing to the out of him not having Zul'jin this last turn, and that's why she stayed in the game, knowing that maybe she could get there if he didn't have the armor. But unfortunately, the draws did not line up for her at all there.
Yeah, well, most importantly, just the key card that draws the cards didn't line up at all as well, because it's, like I said, it's such a huge difference when Master's Call is in one player's hand and not the other, especially so early in the game. But that's not it. There is still a fighting chance. So we're going to take a quick break while the players decide if they're going to switch decks, and between then just go and grab a drink, go and grab some, maybe a quick snack, and we'll be right back.
Dalaran will be ours! Once we land, you know what to do! No we don't. You didn't tell us to play it. I didn't think I had to. It's perfectly obvious. Bank! I am to be robbing the bank! I take henchmen for vault smashing and shiny stealing! Plan is obvious! It's a start, yes, but...
You won't get a single coin unless you take care of the city's guards. Let's rip open Violet Hole and unleash the prisoners on the city. That'll keep the guards busy.
Certainly, but that's not...
No! First, we must sow chaos in the streets.
I got rockets. Anyone need rockets? Try to see the big picture. Chinese.
We have to break their will before we can loot, you fools!
Please, everyone, please!
Let's strap some rockets to the city.
Oh, big candle.
And then we just take the whole shebang wherever we want.
Yes! Finally, you're exactly right.
Seriously?
That's dumb.
Ah, weak candle.
Just wait till second gear kicks in.
Yes! It's just like I said. We're going to take Dalaran for all that it's got. It's a genius plan. It's simple. It should have been obvious. And absolutely nothing will go wrong.
So, genius, how do we land?
One night, I was called on to scry. But what is this symbol I spy? It's my own crystal ball. Yes, I'll answer the call. And the others will come by and by. That's right. We be calling a team in. The Masters of Platin and Scheming. By this candle a-glowing, I surely be knowing whose gold will be once more a-gleaming.
We are back, and everything to play for both these players. SamuelTsao versus Pathra, both 0-5 in their division right now, and they're fighting for that 1 point on the board just to make some headway into the rest of the weeks of this league. Let's check out the list though, because both players have changed, and it's not too much of a shock, Gia, to what they've changed to.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the general consensus every time we've seen the Hunter Mirror or even Hunter versus Paladin and Warrior is you just want to go to the deck that has the high mains in it. it. Now, some players are in a better position in their secondary than others when it comes to the mirror, because we've seen people hard teching for exactly warrior, while certain cards they remove could maybe be worse against hunter. And for SamuelTsao, that seems to be the case, and we saw that too for what's Tyler's opponent?
Shaxi.
Yeah, Shaxi. The lack of Unleash the Hounds really hurt him in the mirror there. But generally, it seems like the risk of getting rid of that is worth the benefit of including the high mains, and that's why SamuelTsao is switching on to this one.
Yeah, the difference between a conditional card, as we can move on to Pathra's deck and see the small differences, but the difference between like a conditional card versus a strong card every single time you play it. So let's take a look at Pathra's list and see what she's moved to with her secondary deck. What's going on over here?
Yeah, this one seems a little bit better positioned in the mirror, simply because it still preserves one hound.
Yes.
And I think that's a great card to just, you know, have as a contingency plan. There are situations where you just get blown out, and having the possibility to counter that, or at least threatening your opponent that it could be in my hand, could make them play very differently. And she also does have the double high main and the second Rhino, which we're also seeing from SamuelTsao, the one of Life Drinker. I'm not sure how relevant that is in the mirror in particular, but I do want to note that the removal of Timberwolf may be either a good thing or a bad thing. Like, I would lean more towards it being a bad thing, because I really just like having the Timberwolf to push either more damage immediately or just have it be a great Dire Frenzy target, especially when you have double Rhinos.
Right. It's really tough though, right? Because then what do you remove? Because we were only allowed 30 cards in these games, so if you keep in one Unleash the Hounds, then it's hard to make a spot anywhere else. Maybe a Shimmerfly, because if you value the overall sort of extra damage and combo potential from a Timberwolf versus just the Shimmerfly doing one job, it does that job very well, but it's kind of equivalent, I'd say. So maybe that's where there's a different cut you could maybe experiment with going forward. But either way, both players do effectively kind of revert this matchup to the old Hunter Mirror style of curving out, getting to that high main first, and then using that to just apply pressure that your opponent cannot actually answer efficiently enough to stay in the game. They're always just going to be that one step behind.
It's true. I also want to note the double hatchet removal from Pathra. Well, hatchet seems okay in the matchup because it can just ping off things, but we saw last game that the double hatchets early drawn were just not impactful enough for Pathra. Granted, they could have been good if she had drawn a Master's Call, but I think overall removing those in favor of things like high main will just be good in the mirror. So,
and also changes some of the styles you can go for. We saw Tyler go very quickly, of course, because he had the double Timberwolf as well as the follower to help push some early damage. But the hatches did a lot of damage that game. They did it was 6 damage, right? She propped both, which means that 6 damage each, which is quite a lot when you're pushing damage. But overall, I do agree with getting rid of them. They're a little bit worse in this matchup, I feel.
Yeah. So I expect to see just a Spring Paw trade here from Pathra. There is this world where you're tracking and then hold on to Spring Paw Coin Hyena, but to buff your Hyena, but that gets punished by your opponent's Hyena. So I do think this is just the safest way to go about it.
Both players so far not having Master's Call available. Pathra does have that tracking, which means she's got a shot at it, or at least a shot at something that can help bridge gaps, or maybe even a high main. Because overall, I think her hand's looking pretty solid. There's the flexibility of the Lynx, the Animal Companion, the Hyena, and of course the Dire Frenzy, which is pretty legit. If you can land it as a curve play and almost like a buff play with side effect.
Yeah. For SamuelTsao, pretty sad that he had the hero power there, but in this matchup, dropping the double 1-drops on curve is probably not as good as it would be against Mage, for example. And he knows that Pathra had the Lynx, so that Timberwolf was probably not getting any value. And instead, he chooses to hold off until the Animal Companion turn. But Pathra with the Hyena on curve now makes it awkward for SamuelTsao to just play Companion, because if it's Huffer, you're really sad. And if it's any of the other minions, well, then you get scared of her trading into it and buffing this Hyena. So he may have just to answer with the Lynx and Timberwolf off curve. Feels awful, though.
Do you ever follow up with the other Timberwolf? Because although you know one of them will die if Pathra wants it to because of Lynx that you know is in hand, it means the other one might not, and it means you could die a Frenzy on it on curve as well if it lives. It's tough, right?
Close.
Because you know this one's dead.
Yes.
If Pathra wants it to be dead. So, is the second one often dead after seeing a Spring Paw?
It's honestly a really rough call. I feel like more likely it survives since she doesn't have the hatchets.
Right.
But SamuelTsao is not willing to take that risk because in the case it does die, then his hand is suddenly looking abysmal because the turn 5 that he would have lost then is the Timberwolf and Frenzy play. And now this is simply a marked shot, and I think SamuelTsao is happy to take this game longer.
Ooh. I think I would have leant towards Freezing Trap.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, doesn't Deadly just remove the thing you would have wanted to freeze anyway?
Not a high main.
Sure.
Not fully. I think Freezing Trap is just easier to weave in early or throughout the game, as opposed to a Deadly Shot becomes fairly conditional, especially with his hand. He doesn't have any other spot removal to make a board a certain size to cash in on the Deadly Shot. Don't get me wrong, Deadly Shot within Zul'jin and in general is a very powerful card.
Yeah.
There's a reason players are running 2 of, but I feel like the bluff factor with the Secret, the replay of the Secret with the Zul'jin to make follow-up turns awkward for Pathra, and then also just being able to actually play it consistently might have edged it for me.
You make a strong argument. I'm honestly not sure which one was better there, but in this case...
There was definitely
yeah.
good choices
Yeah.
involved
yeah.
in that pick. It wasn't as if there was a right and wrong choice.
The 9 lives would have been wrong with no Shimmerflies played yet.
Unless you've got faith that you'll get there. But yes, out of the 2 options.
Ooh, Master's Call.
yeah.
Losing a companion and a Rhino is a little bit unfortunate. I think those are cards you generally would want, but she still has the second copy of Rhino, which could be very relevant later on. Zul'jin enters the hand. SamuelTsao has insurance for his late game at least.
This is nice. At the moment now, as we discussed with Unleash the Hounds and some planes of Spring Paws early, removal of hatchets, there aren't that many sources of 1 damage right now.
Yeah.
So that means this Rhino is at least relatively safe, apart from that one, which does help.
Man, it would have been a disaster if she hadn't drawn an answer. I think it was pretty likely she did because Spring Paw, the second Spring Paw and Scale Hider both answers here.
Yeah.
But if she didn't, would you have the... I don't think you kill Commander Registers. It was a 2-1.
I mean, you could coin kill command because you've got your follow-ups high main anyway.
Fair, that's fair. And
You know,
then you just
when's your
prevent
next
the-
kill command coming down? It's quite a while away, right?
That's true. Now we got another tough turn for Pathra because you kind of want to make sure that you can Dire Frenzy the Scale Height, but it lines up so poorly into the high main.
How sick would Freezing Trap be this turn?
Okay.
For SamuelTsao.
So this was pretty quick, and there were 2 high mains in hand, so yes, I would lean towards high main on curve, but I think it was worth thinking about going for kill command and then coin Dire Frenzy. So you at once remove their high main and also one of the 2/2s and also get the good Dire Frenzy target minion in the deck.
Right. Ticks a lot of boxes, doesn't it?
It's close. But maybe it's too slow given that your hand is double high main. So
Even though it's almost certainly not right, I still always just want to see Dire Frenzy on high main. And just like, no, mine's
Oh
bigger.
my God.
Bang. And then you just draw the next one, play it, draw the next one. It will be so sick. High main's actually probably consistently been one of my overall favorite cards for the whole life cycle of the game.
it's just overall been one of the best cards too.
Yeah. Those things sometimes go hand in hand.
The awkward thing for SamuelTsao is without Unleash the Hounds, he doesn't have a great way of like clearing the death rattles of the high mains. Even with Timberwolf. So, and I don't think either player
What about
has the right to go face just yet. Maybe Pathra does because she can follow up second high main. Oh, he did it!
Yes,
he did the
SamuelTsao,
thing!
I am your biggest fan. I thought you were a pretty good player anyway, but now I know it's true. Best player in the world, confirmed. Look at the size of that high main.
It is a chunky boy. And Pathra doesn't have a deadly shot.
And the problem is, because of this turn, Pathra can't just slam at high main number 2, which was, you could argue, the advantage she had in the game right at this second, is she could go high main, pressure, pressure, pressure. But SamuelTsao's actually removed a large chunk of the threat, and also in a way that doesn't lose his own high main, so created a multi-step problem for Pathra to deal with. And I'm just happy I saw what I wanted to see.
I'm shocked that the high
So
main did
coin
not
kill
go face
command,
if
right?
you were gonna Dire Frenzy it.
But this makes the turn super awkward and difficult for Pathra, right? The
Yeah.
trade.
Yeah, I mean, he had to do the trade to make sure that the deadly
Yes,
hits.
yeah,
so.
exactly.
But man, if you have a 9 attack minion, yeah. And Pathra had to expend a ton of resources to remove it.
And now Unleash the Beast is fine.
Yeah.
SamuelTsao can use the next 2 turns to Unleash the Beast and Unleash the Beast Animal Companion and then Zul'jin. And you have such a sick set of spells already. Deadly Shot's locked in. You've got the animal comps. It's looking really good for SamuelTsao. And obviously, he won't 100% of the time play Unleash the Beast Animal Comp next turn, but it's just the fact that it fits and puts the good stuff in the tank.
And Patra's turn is awkward once again because the high main gets eaten by the Wyvern. It gets traded up. If she goes Master's Call to find something better, she can't play the high main either. What's the good stuff to draw off of Master's Call? She used the one of Scale Hide.
Is there a Spring Paw? Maybe Dire Frenzy Spring Paw is the
Perhaps.
way to go to actually kill off this 5/3. And I feel like if you are being reactive, which she will be, that you have to have the reactive tools, which is 1 mana 4/4 rush, which is pretty powerful. Or maybe you just play a high main. I'd say let's go.
I think I would have leaned towards the high main as well. It's awkward, but I think the Master's Call could get a better turn. So second, Unleash the Beast. Can trade away one of the 2/2s. SamuelTsau's hand is just looking like, you know, stay ahead, and then you can sit on the Zul'jin and make sure that you are also pushing the board initiative, so you can force Pathra on having to Zul'jin first, and then just lock her out.
Oh.
Wow. Okay, maybe now you just want to ignore this high main.
Or do you just clear the whole board?
I feel like that's kind of counterintuitive to what he wants to do. I mean, it does kind of create space for Zul'jin, and then by getting rid of cards, you make your Zul'jin better because you draw more. But that gets very punished by Patra's counter Zul'jin, should it happen.
Right. It's tough. I think so. So the reason I suggested the trade, which SamuelTsao always end up going for, is that with the health totals being where they are, I feel like if you don't trade and go aggressive, Pathra has a decent turn. She gets the hit with high main, and SamuelTsao was already on a lower health total, which means that he could actually just have one of those games where you're in control, but then you slip up once and then you're just dead. So I think I like this overall. It also means with the cards he has in hand, with the second version of Unleash the Beast along with a kill command, means that he also, again, doesn't have to play Zul'jin the turn after.
It's true.
I think he has continued options here.
You make a strong point. And this is still a board that Pathra needs to have either Springpaw or Unleash the Hounds to answer. I mean, the trades, I was thinking if they happened, at least one of the minions would die, but they actually didn't. So yeah, I like the trading.
I think this is cool.
Convinced me on it. Yeah.
And even Unleash, right, is a third of Patra's mana. None of the dogs live initially with just Unleash, I'm talking about, and also SamuelTsao heals for 2 more. So even then, it's not the end of the world. It's unfortunate, but we can see that it had to be Master's Call into the Spring Paw. The Dire Frenzy looks like it's going to come down now, which I think is a good choice, just to get more reactive tools going forward. But still, it doesn't feel great, does it?
I wonder if she had to maybe hold off a bit and try to get to your Zul'jin. Because I feel like I'm unsure if just drawing Spring Paws, even though they're 4/4s, will get you there. But if she didn't Dire Frenzy, the rest of the mana was rather awkward, right?
Right. And also as well, this left Pathra with something on the board. So at least there's something there. I mean, she could have played the Shimmerfly or whatever as well to end up with something, but this is still scary. SamuelTsao is the master of not playing Zul'jin.
Yeah.
And that doesn't sound like a compliment, but it kind of is.
It is. I mean, I think it's much more clear why he's holding it this game than last because he hasn't seen Pathra's Zildjian yet. It's as simple as that. Like the one that goes second when they're both loaded up with reactive spells like Deadly Shot and Unleash the Beast, and when both players are at relatively healthy life totals, the second one tends to be a lot better because that person ends up with a board by the end of things.
Oh, Wing Blast, not too shabby. Even if it's used this turn to just kill one extra minion, I don't think anything else feels that great. There's no rush minions in Pathra's hand, so Beast of Wrath is extremely limited into the following turns. Oh, I actually didn't see it. She didn't even see the Unleash the Beast. Yeah, this is better for this turn than Wing Blast, but I think Wing Blast in general in the future is good too.
Yeah, it's got a lot of flexibility. SamuelTsao is like,
go.
oh,
there's a
now
minion.
he
There's a
goes?
minion
Okay.
to kill.
Okay.
He's got Deadly Shot, right?
But
So go.
does this not get overly punished by a counter Zildjian? No.
Oh.
I mean, was the hand bad enough that he had to go for this now? That's my question.
The problem is the turn is, if not, Animal Companion kill command, Hero Power face. The Animal Companion could have been a Leok, and you don't do much.
Probably
Whereas the thing about the counter Zul'jin, it's good, but doing a Zul'jin at this point means your opponent has to have Zul'jin, or they have an extremely difficult turn.
Okay. But, I mean, Pathra's drawn most of her deck. Like, I feel like it's relatively likely for them to have a Zul'jin, but okay, I think I know what SamuelTsao is thinking, is that with the counter Zul'jin, maybe after the trades, the board is kind of even, or maybe Pathra ends up like with a 5-5. And that's doable for SamuelTsao, especially if he draws those high mains that he shuffled in. Because in the post-Zul'jin world, if both players' boards are relatively even, I think SamuelTsao has the advantage because he has these big threats that can just be plopped down one at a time. And Patra's like, how do I deal with these? And now, even without Pathra, because she doesn't have Zul'jin, has to have the super awkward turn. So SamuelTsao gets doubly rewarded.
Yeah, there also may have been a consideration that Pathra would have also played her Zul'jin by now, because some of her turns have not looked enjoyable.
Yeah.
Basically, some of the things she had to do might not have felt too good, so maybe there would have been a Zul'jin. I think the Zul'jin mind games are very difficult in this mirror, of course.
And she is going for... I'm not sure if you clear the Huffer and then Wing Blast the 8-3 or leave yourself with a 5-1. I mean, or leave yourself with no minions, rather.
I choose to take the slightly less damage.
I feel like the Huffer is a scarier minion to leave in terms of Dire Frenzy being in the hand, but it's not right now.
And even this, it's just too much. And the second, well, one thing you do have again, it's unlikely because Patra's so deep in the deck, but one thing you do have an advantage of is the second your opponent doesn't have Zul'jin and doesn't quite clear the board, you end up so far ahead.
It's true.
Because you normally cast in Master's Call to refill your hand. You've got other spells as well, like the Unleash the Beast as follow-up. So even without a high main draw, well, that could just be an Unleash the Beast instead, and it's still a problem, right? It's not like that's the end of the world.
Patra still doesn't find the Zul'jin, not that it would have been great here. And I just don't know how she gets there now, because SamuelTsao, with that window of there being no counter Zul'jin, just pushes more pressure, and Pathra that's taken too much damage to survive another turn, I think.
And with Dire Frenzy, but not another Master's Call, it means that even doing, say, a Dire Frenzy on this Spring Pour or something else, and then Master's Calling into another one to play, which is strong, just isn't going to really cut it.
She can at least use the Lynx and Timberwolf to clear off 2 minions. It leaves a high main. You're never happy about that.
Also as well, just in case people don't know this interaction, the Dire Frenzy on the Spring Paw now would not create 7/7s in the deck.
Yeah.
It would just create a single 7/7 on board, it's a buff, but the one shuffled in would be more 4/4s. It does not add...
Does it stack?
Yeah, forced buffs together. So now, Pathra not quite dead on board, but still, this high main is a problem.
Zul'jin, bottom 6. That just feels bad.
There's even just hero power, multi-shot, go face to just clear the board and leave the high main completely safe.
What about Unleash the Beast and multi-shot?
That's also
Probably the other...
That's just fine, yeah. I was just naming cards that are playable.
Sure.
but the fact that this high main doesn't ever have to consider trading this turn is absurd and shows how far ahead SamuelTsao actually is.
Alternatively, you could Master's Call into one of the chunky high mains and play that. Because he's got so much health.
I think whatever, yeah, 29 is... I'm pretty sure SamuelTsao could, along with this high main, of course, just win the hero power fight. Even if he only has high main, one clear and hero powers for the rest of the game. It's easy.
He's thinking about, obviously, the only way Pathra comes back is her own Zul'jin. And so what's the best board state to play into a counter Zul'jin?
I think it's the just unleash the beast, get it done now. And I
feel I feel like maybe a second high main would be the hardest for Pathra to deal with, but
it doesn't clear the board though, right?
Yeah.
So it actually gives Pathra more ways to work with the minions. Spring Paw there will be able to clear off this Wyvern, but...
That's just GG. She cannot clear off anything more.
No, she can. With Spring Paw, the second one, with the Bestial Wrath, can clear off a 2/2. So that's what, 7? I'm from Patra's point of view.
Oh sorry, with the kill command in hand.
The kill command changes things, but from Patra's point of view, she's trying to just survive to get to Zul'jin. She can multi-clear with using Dire Frenzy and Bestial Wrath. It looks like she's gonna leave the high main up instead, which does technically put the least amount of damage on board, but that's just the threat minion. Yeah. It's a tough thing to juggle.
There was technically a way to survive by dealing with the 6/5 and the 5/5, but that involves Dire Frenzying your links when you're like, I need Zul'jin. That's obviously not a winning play. It's just survive to exactly kill command, and unfortunately, that is just gonna be it. My gosh, that was... I can't believe the draws were that bad, to be honest. For Pathra. Like,
very, very intricate series there overall. And yeah, you know, the draws don't go your way sometimes, but also if you're entering into a matchup where for me at least, the Master's Call is so vital.
For sure.
There needs to be at least some kind of game plan to try and defeat that. I don't know if that game plan exists at all. I don't know if it's to do with even potentially deck building differently if you're preparing for the mirror. But I also think that there weren't that many players that actually teched for the mirror. I think it was just a side tech where high mains are good in the mirror, and that's just that. But SamuelTsao going to take the win there, 2-0 over Pathra in the Hunter mirror. And since it is Sunday and that was game number 5, we do have one more for you guys. It's going to be Blood Trail versus Glory coming right up, and we're going to forget about Hunter for a while. We've had enough. It's going to be the Holy Wrath Paladin versus the Rogue. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.